Hello Year 7s, this time we're going to talk about how to solve equations, okay? So we're going to use our algebra skills to do this, equations. Okay, so for example, let's say that we had something that looked like this, 2m plus 3 equals 9, okay? Now, you might just be able to look at that and work out what m would be, and that would just make sense to you. But for some other questions, it's going to be a little bit harder than that, and I want you to get used to doing it properly using our algebra skills. So what we're going to do is we really want to find out what m is, so we're going to get m on its own. So the first thing we're going to do is start to move things away from m. The first thing that we can move is the 3, because that's on its own, and that's a much easier thing to move. So what we'll do is we'll start with our 9, and if we're going to move something to the other side of the equal sign, we have to do the opposite of what it is. So at the moment it's plus 3, so we make it minus 3. So whatever it is, we do the opposite, okay? So 2m at this point equals 6, because 9 minus 3 is 6. Now the next thing we want to do is get m on its own, so we're going to move the 2. That's the next thing that's in our way. Now we can't just minus it because this is not a plus 2. This is really saying, remember, if there's no sign it means times, so 2m really means 2 times m. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to do 6 divided by 2, okay, which means m is 3. Now we can go back at the start and check and make sure that that works. So 2 times m, which we just found out, is 3. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9. So good, it works. So that's a little bit of a simple one to do. Let's have a go at doing something else. What if we had something like this? 20 over a equals 10. So we want to get a by itself, don't we? Now, what we want to do is move the 20, but we can't really do that because what we want to do is move the bottom of the fraction first, okay? That's always the easiest thing to do. We're going to move the bottom part of the fraction. So at the moment, this is 20 divided by a, so we're going to do the opposite of that. We just said the opposite of divide is times, so we're going to do this, 10a, because we're going to times the 10 by a. Now, we want to get a on its own, so let's move the 10. So if we just said that 10 times a, so we're going to do the opposite, we're going to do divide, so we're going to do 20 divided by 10 is a. So a must be 2. Wonderful. So 20 divided by 10 is 2. So a must be 2. Now we can go back and check and see if that works. 20 divided by 2 equals 10. Wonderful, it does work, okay? Now, what if we have something that has a couple more steps in it? So let's do something that requires a fair bit of things, actually. So let's do 2x plus 4 equals 4x plus 5, okay? Now we've got a few different x's and we've got brackets and things, but we're going to do the same thing. There's just going to be more steps. We're going to move everything around until we get x by itself. Now the first thing we have to do is get rid of these brackets. So if we want to do that, we have to multiply what's outside of the brackets by everything that's inside of the brackets. Remember that? So we've got 2 times x, so 2x, and we've got 2 times 4, which is 8. And we'll leave the other side as it is by now. Okay, what we're going to do now is put all the x's together and then put all the normal numbers together, okay? So let's leave the x's on this side. So we've got 2x, and we want to bring this one over to the other side. Now this is currently just a normal positive 4x, so we'll have to make it a negative 4x if we're going to move it to the other side, okay? And then we want our other numbers on the other side, so we've still got our 5 over here, but we're going to move our 8. And if it's currently plus 8, we're going to have to make it minus 8 on this side. Now we can start to put together our like terms. Now these two things go together, don't they? So we've got 2x's here, minus 4x's over here, so altogether we have minus 2x's or negative 2x's, okay? And here we've got 5, take away 8, so our answer is negative 3. Now, what do we have to do to get x on its own? We want to get rid of this minus 2, don't we? This negative 2. Currently it's negative 2 times x, so we're going to do the opposite of times. We're going to do divide by negative 2. Now what happens if we have two negatives here? Remember that they end up cancelling each other out. So we really have 3 over 2, or 1.5. It's another way to say 3 over 2, isn't it? It's the same as 1.5. So x is 1.5, okay? Now remember, yeah, if you have your two negatives like this, they're going to cancel each other out. That always is the case when we're dividing. So hopefully that is a little bit of a reminder. Actually, let's do another example. Let's turn the page. Turn the page. All right, let's do another example. Let me move this around somewhere. Okay, so what if we have something like 3n minus 5 over 5 minus 3 equals 2. Let's have a go at something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to think about what one we're going to move first. We're going to move this 3 first, okay? Because it's on its own. We don't want to touch this fraction until last. So let's leave the fraction as it is for now. And we're going to put the 3 over the other side, but it's a negative 3 on this side, so we're going to have to do the opposite. So we'll make it a positive 3. So we have 3n minus 5 over 5 equals 5. Because 2 plus 3 is 5. Now the next thing we're going to move is the bottom of the fraction. We always move the bottom of the fraction first, okay? Now remember, fractions mean divide, so what are we going to do? We're going to times by 5, okay? So we end up with 25. Now the next thing we're going to move, this 5 is on its own, isn't it? Or this minus 5 is on its own. So what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to make it a plus 5 on this side because we have to do the opposite. So 3n equals 30. Now we want to get, I'm running out of room, we're going to have to move to the other page. So we need to get n by itself. So what are we going to do? It's 3 times n, isn't it? So we'll do the opposite of times, which is divide. So 30 divided 3 is 10. So n must be 10. This one has quite a few steps in it. You don't have to write all of these steps down if you don't want, but you certainly need to write a few. You could get away with not writing this step or not writing this step or not writing this step if you want. Yeah, I'd be alright if you didn't write all those steps, but you certainly need to show some working out, okay? Next we'll look at backtracking.